The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, I think it's time to get started. Welcome to BIQed's webinar education session. I'm Carl Nielsen. I'll be leading things off today, going through the agenda quickly, telling you a little bit about BIQed is first on the agenda. Then Dave Wood is going to speak to Agility AMP. Brian Benson is going to give you some information around Netezza, managing data. And David Wright will be speaking about asset management, asset analytics. At the end, we'll have the ability to answer some of your questions, which, by the way, put those questions in the chat box, and I will keep track of those and either answer them during the session or move them to the end. Also, this is being recorded. So if you have any issues with being on a recorded webinar, now would be the time to disconnect. All right, next slide, please. So a little bit about BIQed. This slide gives you a bit about our vision. Actually going to paste a link into the chat so you can see a little bit more about the vision, and put that in there. Basically, we're in business to help other businesses. You would work with us on business intelligence, data warehousing, analytics, asset management, and anything related to pure data for analytics or Netezza. All right, next slide. A little bit about us. If you want to break down the types of services that we have, we do consulting, analytics, architecture work, implementation, training support, sales and pre-sales work as well. Next slide. So just a couple results in the consulting area. We were able to do an assessment for a large consumer products company, a little bit about that there. Also, an assessment recommendations for a large telecom company, and a little bit about that as well that you can read. Next slide, please. On the analytics side, and this plays into Agility AMP as well, a little bit of customer and product analytics that we have done, location analytics including GIS, and software hardware analytics as well. Next slide, please. On the architecture side, as I mentioned, we do a lot with Netezza, Pure Data for Analytics, and various software packages, Cognos, SQL Server, Informatica, and really any tool that you have, we will find the skills to work with. Next slide, please. All right, in terms of implementation, do everything from full project, planning, designing, developing, supporting, data conversions, as well as department specific. Here are some of the departments that we work with frequently. All right, next slide. Training and support, we do 24/7 support, as well as custom training, which I think is pretty unique, using your tools, your data, and your processes as well. And next slide. And then on the sales front, we're an IBM business partner as well as an Agility business partner. So again, anything related to Pure Data for Analytics, Netezza, asset analytics, quick start data warehouse, those are some of the things we do on the sales side. And next slide. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Wood at this point, and he'll give you his perspective on what's going on with Agility AMP and how BIQed can play a part.
Hey, Carl, thanks. I hope you folks can hear me okay. My name is David Wood. I'm with the Genity Corporation. I'm out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I did want to spend a little bit of time just to tell you who we are and what we do. We have a world-class offering of solutions we certainly want to touch on. You're probably familiar with Workbench if you're working with the Netezza environment. The query tool Workbench is a solution that we developed. We have another solution called AMP, and just wanted to spend a little bit of time with you there to let you know about that. We're very happy to have partnerships with folks like BIQed in the fold as well. So next slide, please. Spend about 10 minutes, and Nancy, yeah, you can build this out, just to tell you about the history of Genity. Genity's been around since 2005. Began as a services-oriented company, primarily around the space of doing customer analytics, helping, I'd say, rather medium-sized to larger-sized companies get a handle on obviously doing the best they can to analyze their customer behaviors and go-to-market strategies. Began as a real pioneer in the MPP platform. Really began working with Netezza in the early days, well before the IBM acquisition. So we're certainly very accustomed and comfortable working with that. We have a strong relationship with IBM as a result as well. Along the way, Genity began as a services company and began developing software solutions. So it really went from services, the early years, into a technology-led services operation in the middle years, to 2013 when they said, listen, we've developed these great solutions that are in play. Our role really should be to shift and turn as a software company. And so since 2013, that's been the focus. We really look at ourselves as a software vendor with partnerships and the like as well. Workbench is a tool that we developed in the mid-2000s, came up with that to get a better way to actually query against Netezza, and I imagine we have some good mind share in that realm as well. That's a freeware product, and hopefully there's some good exposure there. 30% year-over-year growth, so we're real proud of that. Next slide, please. This is imagine a little more technical crowd, so typically talk about the value first that we do with the Genity AMP. We'll get into AMP. I did want to start maybe with the architecture slide, though. In this case, just to ground you and let you know what we're talking about. I think from a technical perspective, you would probably be asking, well, what does this thing look like as we talk about the value? So let's flip the script and talk architecturally what this is, and then we'll certainly get into the value proposition and why we're different in what we do. A Genity AMP, if you will, is going to constitute in this kind of green box, light green box that you see. The outer dashed line, consider that to be a Netezza or a PDA environment. So obviously in this case we're running solely in that platform. We do have a version that runs on Hadoop, Hortonworks, that's due out as well. We're excited about that, but the mainstay that we're really talking about here is what we do with Netezza. In order to do customer analytics and help our customers really get the big bang for the buck, we help do three main things here, and I'll architecturally explain it. One is we get information, we load information into an environment, various flavors of information, be it digital marketing information, web traffic information, social media, and or in-store, very traditional information about customers, put it in one common repository for use. We have we'll call an ETL environment. It is not an Informatica type of environment. We're not looking to replace any of that content. We're providing simply a very easy-to-use environment where users can ingest, transform, and organize the data the way that they want to do. Really, the main requirement that this person needs is to understand surrogate key management. If they know that, they can actually load the information. Our solution provides a dynamic data model, which is also unique. Most environments, when you're going to go this route to do this data model, you have to really come up with requirements, traditionally come up with a data warehouse strategy, then a data mart strategy, and a very waterfalled approach. That's not the case here with the Genity AMP. Getting data in is very quick. We can prepare it, roll it in a very dynamic fashion that separates the need for a virtual data model. Once the data and new sources are loaded and they're continually coming in, we move to the middle part of the structure, which is actually building attributes or analytic content. If you think of a BI environment where you have metadata that you create, This could be conceived that way. We're building analytic content, but there are two main differences here. One, this analytic content is actually developed by business analysts, not by technical folks. So we're letting the people that understand the requirements that need to get at this do this kind of work. Two, we are creating, if you will, and you see in the middle here, a catalog, or an actual reusable, savable catalog of analytic content that we can share and put together. So when you're building out things like first household purchase date, or you've got average customer balance, things like that, metrics that you want to work with and use, we can create that, save it for then reuse and consumption. We then thirdly have the ability, if you look to the right here, to actually publish this content and send it out into an environment where it can be shared by other users, as well as, and very important, other applications. So whether you have a BI application or a predictive analytic application or a marketing campaign application, no longer do you have to worry about recreating this same logic in these silos. You have the ability to create it once, promote it out, of course with IT governance involved, and then actually push that information out. Very powerful, and seeing real benefits of what this does. Architecturally, that's what it is. I'll get into why it's important. Next slide, please. So to get to what our vision is, the Agility Manifesto, if you believe, really is around analytics, and I kind of drop down to this bottom one. Analytics should be readily shared and monetized throughout the organization. If you don't have a solution like Agility AMP, you're typically doing very manual, one-off exercises to create this logic, to use it in a very point fashion, and then to have to go back and rebuild it time and time and time again. Our belief is it's different. Analytics should be created once and used many times. Data scientists shouldn't need to spend time preparing data all the time, and we have the ability to pull that in and not work with that, not have to do that. Analytics should be cataloged so they can be used anywhere by anyone. So the calculation that reads average customer balance should be universal throughout the organization. Analytics should be searchable, should be self-serviceable by everyone, not just IT. Analytic production and publication should, though, be governed by IT. We don't want folks in there. We want the ability to build sandboxes, to do some trial and error, to make sure it's right, promote it out, and have the right resource actually push it out. Should be simple to update a company's analytic content with new data sources. That's always going to be in play. There's always another data source to capture and grab, and that's a big component of what we do. Should be simple to distribute the analytics to any execution system at any time, such as a BI or predictive analytics or market automation. Should be one single version of the analytic anywhere in the enterprise. So this is really a game-changing tenet that Agility AMP brings to the forefront. Next slide, please. So why can't people do this? If you don't have Agility AMP, what's the holdup? There are several key problems, but two of them that we'll address here. And one is the fact that building, deploying analytics just takes a lot of work. This is a fancy way of saying it's just a lot of work, and it's a one-for-one relationship. So one unit of work is typically built. It has to be manually built again and again and time again. This is all going on typically with technical resources having to build and create this content as business resources dictate to these folks what they're trying to do. So you have a handoff that creates a very bottleneck, if you will. The demand for analytics is ever growing. Once the analytics are given back, is it right? Have the requirements changed? And typically the analytic content is perishable. It's used one time for a campaign, if you will, a marketing campaign, some kind of outreach, and then the cycle repeats. So it's very manual, hard to do. The other thing is ecosystem of analytic-powered applications are built as point solutions. So the ability to share analytic content across multiple solutions is very, very hard, if not impossible to do. Thus, you have silos of recreated math that we'll call it. Sometimes the numbers don't match. The logic is different. And we have the ability here now to create a central repository for that and bring that forward. Very, very beneficial. I'll talk about some real-world examples before we move on. Next slide, please. This really talks about the traditional approach. Folks that are in marketing trying to build campaigns to work with their customers. The traditional method, you build a campaign strategy, you identify the missing attributes, then it's passed over to a technical resource for actually design, build out, perhaps building a mart for consumption, etc. And then it's going back to the marketing to actually eventually run the campaign. With our solution, we take that middle layer out. So the data is presented in a fashion, all the data sources are there. The business analysts can actually create the content that they want. They can actually put a sandbox together to do trial and error, and then absolutely have full reign to run the campaigns. You'll see not only does this save a massive amount of time and effort, it creates a massive exponential uptick in productivity. Next slide. Math today or analytic content is disparate. Typical environments, it's all over the place, whether it's in a BI layer or a predictive analytic or campaign management tool or SQL. It's just everywhere, and it's having to be chased and managed and recreated over and over again. Next slide. This is very problematic as customers go on a journey where they want to start all the way up to be prescriptive in nature. And this is a journey, and it takes a lot of time and effort to get there. If you don't have a tool like Agility AMP, you are typically working at the base layer with raw data elements, converting to simple math, okay, whether that's in Excel or email campaign targets like exact target. Then you want to get to descriptive, okay, about what channel preferences are out there, discounts, influences, etc. And that's typically in a BI layer. If you want to get predictive, I would argue that's the next layer up, okay, who's at risk to churn, the next visit purchase date. Again, another layer, another point solution, another place to actually have to create math, and then to ultimately be on a journey to get to prescriptive, where we want to recommend to customers this is what you need to buy, etc., based on given entities. All of this, next slide please, is problematic because you have silos and silos of recreated math that you need to manage and maintain. With Agility AMP, it's built once, it's shared throughout the organization, and the journey is much more fluid and easy to get to. Next slide. Okay, so I say so what, right? It's great theory if you can talk about how wonderful something is. Are people using it? And the answer is yes, they are. If you look at, I call this our NASCAR slide because of the logos that are on there, but if you look at the bottom, these really are our workbench clients. Again, we've got a nice pedigree. Your firm could be potentially on here as well, of folks using that, but the AMP clientele is up in the top. And we work with customers in retail. We work with customers in CPG like Coca-Cola. We work with big companies, small companies. Homemakers is a less than $100 million firm in the Midwest. So we've got a wide range here of content. Any customer that has a lot of customers that they're trying to get activity and harness around omni-channel and work within analytics, they're a great fit for what we do. So I just want to let you know it's tried, true, it's tested, it's out there, and we're very excited about it. Next slide, please. Here's a real-world case. I'll leave you with this. Catalina Marketing is a client down in St. Petersburg, Florida. You see how big they are. What they do, it's really interesting. They combine, they represent U.S. retailers, grocers, drugstores, etc., and they match that those companies with CPG product manufacturers. And this all comes to a head typically in a grocery store or a drugstore where a customer will come in and actually buy stuff in the store based on what the person buys, based on their profile, etc. They're then offered up coupons for a return trip. More product is sold, the CPG folks are happy, the retailers get more traffic, and the customers actually get a discount. So it's a win-win-win. They were struggling to do this very manual approach, as most folks do without Agility AMP. To do probably 2 to 3 marketing campaigns per cycle, per week actually, and they had on staff, it's a very big Netezza shop, one of the world's largest consumer databases that's out there. They had 5, we'll call it core attributes or analytics that they were using. They were recreating over and over this content to actually outreach to their customers, to the tune of about 10,000 manual attributes per year that were created for one-time use, and feeding sources like SAS for analytics, MicroStrategy for reporting, and a market automation system. So they said, we've got to find a better way to do this. They wanted a next generation omni-channel digital engagement proposition. Let's get all the data in one location, where then secondly, business analysts can actually work with the content, and then thirdly, build a catalog of analytic content that can be reused and distributed throughout the organization. Now their productivity, aside from saving massive amounts of time, etc., now their productivity is tenfold, and they have 30 campaigns running per cycle versus the 2 to 3 that they were before. A deal was inked in late March, and go live went actually at the end of September. So we're very excited about it. It's just one example, just to let you know how it works. Next slide. And finally, who cares about this? I know folks on the phone today may be more working with Netezza in a technical environment. The people who are really going to care about our value profit AMP are going to be folks like digital marketers, people who are concerned with customer experiences. These kind of titles have popped up now in the organizations: chief analytics officers, chief data officers. Not the typical IT folks that are concerned with data security and moving data. These folks are concerned with making money with the data. How are we going to leverage what we have to actually get a better return? Those are the folks we'd like to get introduced to. So if on the phone today we have people that say, yeah, that'd be a great idea to talk to those folks, that's what we're after. So I hope that helps. Next slide, please, and I think I'm done. Any questions? Okay. We'll pass it on.
All right, thanks, Dave. Yeah, I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, just type them into the chat window and we will address those. Next up is Brian Benson. He's going to be talking about some things that you may not know about Netezza and how BIQed can help. Take it away, Brian.
Morning. Carl has asked me to quickly touch on several different aspects revolving around pure data for analytics, also known as Netezza. And the first topic is on disaster recovery. BIQed was contracted to improve a customer's disaster recovery method. They already had a process in mind, they just wanted the extra hands that we provided. The process they were trying to improve was twofold. First, the company's current backup procedure was of a few selected databases that were running before the nightly processing. Therefore, the adds and updates from the nightly processing were not being included. Running the backups after nightly processing often spilled over into the workday. The fix they desired was to get a full backup before nightly processing and then get a much shorter duration differential backup the next morning before the workday started on these selected databases. Second, they also wanted to provide the development team day-old data every day while retaining 2 days' worth of backups. One requirement they had was to have as little processing be performed on the production machine to not take away any cycles from production. One issue we had was this. If a view was defined as a join on multiple tables from at least 2 databases, the view creation could fail if the other database was not yet built. We had to add a process at the end of the database builds that would determine what objects were missing and recreate them. I was successful, and this tool is concurrently available from BIQed. Now for my next flyby, the next screen, right, is IBM Fluid Query. Back in March of this year, IBM introduced IBM Fluid Query 1.0. Fluid Query 1.0 provided access to data in Hadoop databases, to pure data for analytics, to the Netezza box, specifically IBM Big Insights, Cloudera, and Hortonworks. Now, with Fluid Query 1.6 introduced just last month, Netezza appliances can also directly query data in DB2 LUW, DB2 on the mainframe, DB, Oracle, and other pure data appliances using native connectors. In addition, the latest version of Fluid Query provides access to any other structured data source that supports JDBC, such as Teradata, MapR, or Microsoft's SQL Server. Obviously, accessing the data residing outside of Netezza will not be near as fast. Having access to that data by simply defining it will open up new ways of getting data into Netezza rather than the normal unloading, loading, importing, and such. The best thing about IBM Fluid Query 1.6 is that if you have an Netezza system, it is a no-charge add-on. Next slide. Next is the IBM's Netezza Performance Portal. This portal is a web-based administrative client for managing and monitoring Netezza servers. It runs on Internet Explorer and Firefox. I had no problems with Chrome. Most of the features come from the NZ admin tool are on this portal. A few functions of the Agility tool for Netezza are also in this tool. With the Performance Portal, you can display and work with objects, work with users and groups, work with backup and restores, and manage scheduling like the admin tool. You can also check hardware status, look at query history, and run queries like on the Agility tool. Next slide. In addition, there are several monitors available. There's the Activity Monitor, which monitors swap space, concurrency, and the Netezza Performance Server memory allocation. Next slide. There's a Performance Monitor, which monitors throughput per hour, query performance, throughput per minute. And the next slide. There's a Query Monitor, which measures short and long snippets, also short guaranteed resource allocation, which is GRA, and long GRA. And the next slide is the Resource Monitor, which monitors disk utilization, memory utilization, CPU utilization, and fabric utilization. And fabric is the internal backplane of the actual tower itself, all internal. Unfortunately, like Fluid Query, the Netezza Performance Portal is a no-charge add-on. And finally, my last topic is more of an introduction. One of the biggest costs of IT outside of people is software licensing. Many companies simply set aside a large money bucket to cover any license costs, fees, and fines. They do nothing to track their own software costs. They simply let the vendor tell them what they owe, which is money down the drain. Our software asset analytics product allows your company to take ownership of your software assets and minimize the surprises that come renewal time. David Wright is our subject matter expert on the software asset management. David has 17 years experience in this area on both sides, the vendor side as well as the purchasing company side. So if your software assets are a major cost at your company, about to present could save you some time and money. Thanks for your attention. And are there any questions? Carl?
Oh, no questions so far, so we'll thank you, Brian, and we'll let David Wright pick up.
Good morning, Nancy. We'll go ahead and move to the next slide. We're going to give you a 30,000-foot briefing on software asset management, asset analytics that we house here in BIQed, and would look forward to engaging your company in the opportunity to save millions of dollars annually, protect the corporation that you represent, and give you an audit-ready posture at all opportunity and time for internal as well as external reviews and audits. The SAM model is basically a single integrated view of install software that you've ordered that resides in your corporation, and give them the opportunity to do a one-to-one reconciliation between your usage and your purchasing entitlement. Software asset management really is the opportunity to take your purchasing power that you have within your licensing structure and utilize and optimize what you've bought. It's the opportunity to take the time to look at what you have and your user rights, your second user rights, your ability to bundle your software, and take the time to not over allocate or underutilize or overspend when you're looking at what your portfolio entitles you to. Why would you really want to do a software asset management opportunity? It really gives you the opportunity to reduce your unnecessary spending. You know, once again, you're trying to leverage all that you've bought and all that you can use, giving you all the control, and when it comes time to audits and reviews, as well as your contract negotiations. You should be able to go to the negotiating table with your vendors on your annual supports, and you should be in the driver's seat. You should be able to know what you own, what you need, what you don't need, and have the opportunity to be in control at the table. In doing so, what you'll find is that you'll limit your risks and exposures, and you'll save millions of dollars annually. We have to remember, when you're at the table, the vendor is there to make money. Their job is to sell you software and sell you support. Their job is not to manage your software. Their job is not to manage your portfolio. Once again, that is your to-do, and if you don't represent and don't bring to the table a managed effort, I can guarantee you the vendors will take advantage of that over and over again. It's what I term as a cash cow. Once they know that you don't manage it, they know you can't tell them what you need and what you don't need, and therefore they will continue to make a great profit on your company. The software asset management as a service within the company just helps, once again, reduce your risks, manage your costs, protect the corporation from a software perspective. And when we talk about that here at BIQed, what we're talking about is your end user devices, your laptop, desktops, mid-range devices, servers, as well as your mainframe. Let's go to the next slide, please. Here is a kind of, once again, 30,000-foot overview of gaps that are out there in your environment and in most software spaces, and what are our objectives out here. So once again, we start at the top. We want to be able to make sure that we have a good governing body and policy framework that well defines what software asset management means, what's it going to do for the company, what the organization brings to the table. So it's a piece that really is not an option out there. It's really a necessity when it comes to business today and what we're all trying to do, which is save money and prove that there can actually be a security blanket within the software asset management space. Lifecycle management and process integration. We talk about software asset management. It links right to hardware asset management, and each product out there has a life cycle. You're looking at from beginning of a project all the way through to the end of the product, end of the life. So we're talking, five basic phases that we would be looking at to establish within the SAM space. Tools and capabilities. There's got to be a way, and BIQed brings this opportunity to the table to actually take your entitlement, your contracts, your one-offs, your third-party vendor software, put them into a tool, take your actual running entitlements that are out there in your environment, load them into a tool, and keep up with your compliancy. We can watch and monitor to see if you're underutilized, if you're overutilized, if you have exposures and risks, and help manage that space, which is a key thing in this market. We really need to be able to prove that you have managed opportunity in your software space, and that all vendors and review places like Deloitte, KPMG understand, and we can prove the model. Data management, once again, is all about the accuracy. You can't guess, you can't wonder, you have to actually prove what you own. Microsoft is a huge vendor out there, and if anyone has dealt with them, you know that annually they come in and they say you need to true up what you own. So once again, they're going to take and look at your actuals. How many of these SQL licenses do you own? How many other products are out there? And they want actual counts, and if you do not give them numbers that really support what they feel, you're guaranteed an audit where they will come in and release an independent third-party organization to take apart your environment, and at that point you're then subject to penalties, fines that I have seen in the excess of $500,000. But at the same time, with a managed space, you can cut costs down to where we're talking about leveraging the SQL standard licensings versus an SQL enterprise. And of course, the pricing out there is enterprise will cost you about $20,000 a license. Standard costs you about $1,500. Big savings, great opportunity, and that's just a one-off with one of your big vendors. Strategic alignment, products initiatives are also disjoint. Left hand and the right hand a lot of times don't talk to one another. And in today's environment, when you're out here looking at physical machines, virtual machines, and cloud initiatives, licensing sometimes gets overlooked because we're looking for a hardware perspective. We need more performance. We need more width. We want to put it on a cloud. We want to go more virtuals, and all those are performance issues which are key to success in the company. However, on the software side of the house, there are huge impacts that are sitting on top of those decisions. So if you take and decide you want to go from a physical to a virtual, and on that physical device you decided, oh, we need more cores, we need more processors. They do that, they build out the virtuals without knowing that when you make that decision, your software costs just tripled or quadrupled. A good example of that is on an IBM strategy where most of their software products today are PVU based, which is a processor based licensing, and they had one physical, 4 virtuals, and then they decided they wanted to go 8 virtuals. They bumped up the cores, they bumped up the processors. Now all of a sudden that was a 1,500 PVU machine costing them $10,000. Well, now it's a 4 times amount, and the cost will be 4 times as well. So very key to be able to have your SAM program tied into projects and things that are happening in the environment so that everyone has the opportunity to make a very conscious decision on what they want to do and how they want to go about making their changes. Next slide. This is a nice overview of the way we tie in what is typically best practice and procedures, ISO kind of standards where we're talking people, process, and technology. They all have to come tied in. We've got to make sure that we have a governing model that supports the initiatives of what's going on with your SAM organization. We've got to make sure that what they are seeing can be managed and can be delivered through operations, technology, process procedures, all the way down to the operational side where we're looking at what is the process, the life cycles, how we do tap into each one of the phases of the life cycle, how we tie in best practices and procedures so that what SAM provides to the company is that security blanket, that opportunity to present an audit-ready posture at any given time. Next slide. When we talk about the actual life cycle of an asset, this once again goes back through both pieces when we're talking about hardware and we're talking about software. Software in this space is only as good as the hardware feed that we get. So if we have poor hardware asset management or poor record keeping, discovery on the hardware side, it makes it tough for the software side to actually be accurate. So in our asset analytics, we look to try to tie in the hardware life cycle with the software life cycle. They both carry the 5 phases from the planning stage to the procuring, acquiring, to deployment, maintaining through its life, and then the retirement, end of life for each kind of asset, hardware and software. So once again, the governing model to establish the objectives, to keep things in compliancy, defining the actual roles and responsibilities, RACI charts, so that we know who owns what, where, how, so that it's all communicated throughout the life cycle. We talk about operations, establishing the model, best practice procedure, make sure we have the appropriate level of integration in throughout the establishing of procured and review the prior to software deployment. Once again, making sound business decisions when we're looking at hardware optimization, software deployment optimization, implementing the proper tools and tracking and reporting mechanisms. It's important that when we talk about software asset management that we're talking about the life and end-to-end, if you will, of the whole tracking. So with your big vendors, you don't want to look at what you have on an annual basis. You should be looking at a quarterly basis. You want to make sure that you find your trends, your high water marks, and you find your things that would be surprises down the road, and you address them, you eliminate them, you do what you have to do. So when you do take your annual look at your environment and give it to your IBMs of the world, your Adobes, your Microsoft, BA, Oracle, whomever, you've addressed the surprises, you've handled them, and so when you handle your reports over, you feel ready, you feel secure, and you feel accurate in the data that you're giving them. Managing SAM is a big opportunity, once again, to save the company money. As an indirect, we don't really make money for the company, but if we can take and cut down on unneeded MSDN licensing, IBM bundling, which is IBM has a ton of products when you look through them on your server side of the house that they will bill you for every line item when in fact maybe you're running MQ out there, and that MQ actually is a piece of your DB2 or your WASND. We take the opportunity to manage that portfolio, to do the bundling, to use your second right licensing so that we manage that portfolio and deliver to you sound, well-defined software reporting. Next slide. This is just, once again, an overview of how we see software asset management as a benefit for your organization. It goes all the way, once again, from the beginning at project, doing your cost optimization, managing your assets, and once again, that's hardware and software, combined, working with your governance, your security, once again, a high thing that's hitting most places nowadays, your cybersecurity, tying in with that, risk and legal issues, and then the audit space. Once again, I can't describe how critical an audit-ready posture is for all corporations. The fines, the penalties are just crazy expensive, and something you don't want to happen. All of your vendors actually have the legal right to come in and review your environment annually, and there's a number of them out there that are notorious to do it. Then there's the others that are the mom and pops that usually only come when they're getting close to the fourth quarter and they're ready to generate some revenue, because the software space is a big revenue generating space. Example is one of IBM's biggest revenue spaces to date still is the software group. They continuously change their licensing models, and in doing so, you, the customer, wind up jumping through the hoops to chase these models to actually be able to keep up with what they deem you need to do. Most of your big vendors are doing the same thing. We're going from where you used to only had a license for a user, a license. Then we decided, well, no, now we got to go to processor base, and then we're going to go from there to RVUs, and then we're going to go to terabytes, and Microsoft's driving everyone toward the cloud, the Office 365, and these are all fine things. As long as you manage your space, you're ready for them each and every time they come and make a change. At BIQed, we give you the opportunity to have us come in, do a review of your software space and give you suggestions. We also can come in and do a review, give you the suggestions we see, and also work with you to resolve down to actually creating a review, showing you your gaps, giving you what we see is going on, and actually working on behalf of you and taking care and working through and mitigating these exposures. We also have the opportunity on our website that, and I think we're going to share the link here as well, that we have a software asset management survey. So if you want to take the opportunity to see just how ready you are in your SAM space, feel free to go out, take the survey, and just see how prepared you are. And if you have any questions, or if you think, well, maybe I need somebody to take a little deeper look, we'd be more than happy to come in and do so. And I appreciate everyone giving us their time this morning and letting us walk through there. So if we have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Carl?
Yeah, no questions at this point. David, I did want to add, thank you for that. I did want to add just a recent story that might not be aware of. We've been working with a client of ours around this asset management, and 3 or 4 different instances. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but we've been able to help them validate what they have and put them in a good position with the vendor, so that when they talk to them, they can say, no, this is it, this is what we owe you, and really they've almost eliminated their risk, so that they can, as David said, they can manage it themselves, because they know what they have and they know what they need. All right.
Hey, Carl, can I interject one thing too? It just came across my desk this morning. Is anyone that's on the call with us that has the IBM license metric tool and running in their environment that they use to watch their IBM software? IBM has announced that the ILMT tool 7.5 is going out of support, and that everyone that is running ILMT and using IBM software will be forced to move to the 9X. I think it's like 9.2.6, but the 9X version, which is a big fixed base opportunity. So just FYI, that will require new endpoints to be installed and new servers stood up to put the console on. So just once again, I got that little tidbit this morning, and I thought I would go ahead and share that with anyone on the call just in case. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, and that's really a good way to end up this webinar as well. At BIQed, we're really interested in helping the customers know, what's available, what's out there. Give them the options and let them decide, purchasing and various decisions. But give them the facts and give them the support that they need. All right, no questions are in at this point. And I want to say thank you to David Wood, David Wright, and to Brian Benson. And again, it's a good slide here to end with. We've got the phone number and email if you have any thoughts. But I believe that will do it for today's webinar. Thank you all for attending.